Welcome to the Political Bridge. I am Ada, your host. Today we confront a high-stakes policy battle right in America's largest city. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has proposed aggressive tax hikes on high earners and major corporations to fund public services and housing. Critics warn this will drive jobs and wealthy residents away to lower-tax states, crushing the local tax base. Supporters argue it is a long overdue correction to soaring economic inequality that will finally invest in working-class neighborhoods and secure affordable housing for millions. For a warehouse worker or a nurse in Queens, this policy dictates whether their rent stabilizes or their neighborhood services get slashed. We are not here to seek soft compromises. We are here to expose the exact points where these two economic visions collide. Let us dive straight into the debate.
Mayor Mamdani's tax plan is an economic disaster waiting to happen for everyday New Yorkers. When you raise taxes on high earners and corporations, you do not punish a faceless elite. You drive capital, jobs, and taxpayers straight out of the 5 boroughs. We already saw what happened when high-tax states pushed top earners away during the pandemic exodus. Wealthy residents and businesses are mobile. They pack up and move to Florida or Texas, where they keep their money. That leaves working-class families holding the bag when city revenues collapse. If you are a small business owner or a retail clerk in Manhattan, your livelihood depends on a booming economy, not punitive tax hikes that choke growth. Furthermore, the debate over NYC mayoral tax policies shows that government overreach always destroys the very jobs it promises to protect. We need fewer burdens, not more penalties on success.
Nico paints a picture of inevitable doom, but the reality on the ground tells a very different story for regular people. Right now, a nurse or a transit worker in New York faces skyrocketing rents, while major corporations enjoy massive tax breaks. Mayor Mamdani's plan simply asks those at the very top to pay their fair share so we can fund public housing, childcare, and transit. Decades of trickle-down economics have hollowed out our communities while wealth accumulates at the top. The idea that wealthy people will flee over a reasonable tax increase ignores human attachment and the unmatched cultural and economic power of New York City. Corporations want to be here because of our workforce. We need to invest in that workforce directly. The debate over NYC mayoral tax policies is about priorities. Do we protect billionaire profits? Or do we fund the schools and homes that working families need to survive?
We have heard the opening lines. Nico claims flight and revenue collapse are inevitable. Jordan insists investment and fairness will prevail without mass exit. Let us push past the rhetoric. Nico, how do you prove that high earners will leave in numbers large enough to outweigh the new revenue? Jordan, show me concrete proof that similar municipal tax hikes did not trigger job losses elsewhere.
Jordan talks about fairness, but math does not care about feelings. Look at what happened when states like New Jersey and Connecticut raised top tax rates. Millionaires migrated south, and projected budget surpluses turned into structural deficits. When you target corporations, they pass those costs down to consumers or relocate their headquarters. A grocery clerk or a delivery driver pays the price when prices rise or stores close. The data from the Tax Foundation shows clear outbound migration patterns from high-tax urban centers to low-tax states over the last 5 years. You cannot tax your way into prosperity. Mayor Mamdani's plan relies on wishful thinking that taxpayers will simply sit still and accept confiscatory rates. They will not. They will vote with their feet, leaving ordinary New Yorkers to pay higher property taxes and sales taxes when the municipal budget implodes. It is basic economics that progressive wish lists consistently ignore to the detriment of everyone.
Nico relies on outdated talking points that ignore actual studies on millionaire migration. Research from Stanford University shows that millionaires move at very low rates, even when tax differentials are significant, because their social and professional ties anchor them. Furthermore, corporations do not locate solely based on tax rates. They locate where talent lives. New York City is a global hub because of our vibrant culture, transit, and educated population. If we let our infrastructure rot and our working families get priced out, we destroy the very foundation that attracts business in the first place. When a teacher or a hospital worker can no longer afford to live in the city, the entire economy stalls. Mayor Mamdani's plan directly addresses this crisis by generating billions of dollars for affordable housing and public services. That is not a punishment. That is a smart investment in the people who keep New York running every single day.
Time for the stress test. Nico, your argument assumes mobile wealth will vanish, yet you downplay the economic drag of decaying urban infrastructure that Jordan highlights. Jordan, your defense relies on static talent retention, yet you brush off real corporate flight risks seen in smaller cities. Defend your weakest assumptions right now.
Ada, my argument does not downplay infrastructure. It recognizes that private enterprise and organic economic growth generate the tax revenues needed to fix infrastructure. When you impose punishing tax hikes, you kill the goose that lays the golden egg. Cities like Detroit and Baltimore tried heavy-handed taxation and regulation, and they suffered decades of decline before pivoting toward pro-growth policies. You cannot fund public services if the tax base evaporates. The fear of corporate flight is not a theoretical talking point. It is a historical reality backed by data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Companies have already shifted back-office operations out of New York to lower-cost states. Piling more taxes on top of them will only accelerate that trend. We must protect our economic competitiveness above all else, because without a thriving business sector, there is nothing left to tax and no jobs for working people.
Ada, calling elite mobility a certainty, ignores the unique gravity of New York City. Comparing New York to Rust Belt cities undergoing industrial shifts misses the core point. New York is a global financial and cultural capital that cannot be easily replicated in Florida or Texas. Wealthy individuals stay here because of the unmatched ecosystem we provide. Meanwhile, working families are drowning under the weight of housing costs that private markets refuse to solve. When we talk about funding social goods, we are talking about keeping nurses, teachers, and firefighters inside the city limits so society functions. If we cater exclusively to corporate interests out of fear, we ensure the slow decay of our public sphere. Taxing the ultra-wealthy is the only practical tool we have left to stabilize our communities and rebuild the middle class from the ground up.
The stress test is over. Nico insists tax hikes guarantee capital flight and economic contraction. Jordan maintains elite retention and systemic investment outweigh those flight risks. Neither side has conceded an inch on how mobile wealth responds to municipal pressure. Let us hear your final words.
Let us be completely clear about what is at stake for New York City. Mayor Mamdani's tax hike agenda threatens the financial foundation of our entire community. When you squeeze job creators and high earners, you trigger a slow-motion crisis that ultimately harms the working class through higher costs and fewer opportunities. History shows that economic vitality depends on low burdens, competitive markets, and personal freedom. If we chase away the people and companies that fund our municipal services, we will face severe budget cuts for police, sanitation, and schools. A nurse, a transit worker, or a small business owner will pay the ultimate price through declining public safety and a weaker economy. We must reject punitive taxation and instead champion pro-growth policies that welcome investment, reward hard work, and keep New York open for business. Prosperity is never guaranteed, and reckless policies can destroy a great city faster than anything else.
The choice before us is stark and urgent. For too long, we have prioritized corporate profits and tax breaks for the ultra-wealthy, while working families struggle to pay rent and put food on the table. Mayor Mamdani's plan provides a necessary course correction, ensuring that those who have gained the most contribute their fair share to the society that made their success possible. When we fund affordable housing, robust public transit, and quality childcare, we build a resilient economy that benefits everyone, not just a fortunate few. A city where teachers, nurses, and retail workers cannot afford to live is a city in terminal decline. We have the resources to fix this crisis if we summon the political courage to use them. Let us stand up for working people, invest in our public infrastructure, and create a fair, vibrant future for every single resident across all 5 boroughs.
Jordan keeps leaning on this idea of New York's unshakable exceptionalism, as if no amount of state and local tax pressure could ever alter corporate behavior. But let us look at the actual numbers coming out of recent corporate relocations to places like Charlotte, Austin, and South Florida. Financial services and tech firms are not just moving back-office functions anymore. They are moving primary executive leadership and high-yield trading desks out of Manhattan to escape compounding local tax liabilities. When Mayor Mamdani proposes layering these aggressive municipal levies on top of already high state rates, the marginal tax burden crosses a critical tipping point. It turns out that even billionaires and multinational corporations have a breaking point where the cost-benefit analysis of staying in New York no longer makes financial sense. This is not about fear-mongering or abstract economic theory. It is a measurable trend backed by corporate filings and commercial real estate data. Every time a major employer shifts headquarters or expands its footprint elsewhere, hundreds of high-paying jobs leave with them, taking millions of dollars in personal income tax revenue off the table permanently. You cannot ignore these shifting market realities without risking structural collapse.
Nico treats corporate tax planning as if it occurs in a vacuum, completely disconnected from the crumbling municipal infrastructure that supports everyday commerce. Companies do not just evaluate tax lines on a spreadsheet. They evaluate the quality of the transit system their employees rely on, the safety of the streets, and the availability of housing that prevents workers from spending 3 hours commuting. When corporations abandon urban centers over minor tax adjustments, they often find that the cheaper alternatives lack the educated, dense labor pool that drove their initial profitability. Mayor Mamdani's revenue framework specifically targets the top tier of earners and corporate windfall profits precisely to fund the physical and social infrastructure that keeps New York competitive globally. If we fail to invest in affordable housing and public transit now, the city will suffer a talent drain far more devastating than any corporate relocation wave. Teachers, nurses, and sanitation workers are the true backbone of this metropolis, and if they are priced out entirely, the economic engine grinds to a halt anyway. Investing in our working class is the ultimate pro-growth strategy for the long-term health of our city.
That brings our debate to a close. Nico and Jordan have laid out two fundamentally incompatible visions for the future of urban America. You have heard the facts and the arguments. You can find more information and resources at tpbridgepod.com. Join us next time for another engaging discussion. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and keep the debate alive.